Hello everyone and welcome today to this webinar from Hosting Controller titled Cloud Computing Opportunity for Service Providers. My name is Syed Hashmi and I am the founder and CEO of the company. In the next 60 minutes or so, we will look at this agenda which will go through as follows. We will first look at the business case for service providers. Then we will look at the opportunity that cloud computing provides to the service providers. Then we will look at some of the challenges faced by the service providers in offering cloud computing. Then we will look at the hosting controller solution, and then we will conclude the presentation in 60 minutes or so. So if we just look at the business case, we see that the worldwide cloud computing market has already surpassed $68 billion, and by the year 2020, it is expected to surpass $160 billion as per Forrester research. Different independent studies have put it as big as $240 billion, and it's uncertain where the market will settle, but it's going to be huge in the coming years. If we look at the small and medium businesses cloud market, we see that it's mainly divided into 4 market segments. And the first market segment is the shared hosting market segment, which has been the traditional one. And as you can see, out of all the cloud computing market share, the percentage of shared hosting is decreasing. We see a big growth in messaging and collaboration, which has already gone to around $5 to $8 billion. There is a huge increase from this small green to this large green in VPS and cloud infrastructure provisioning. And then there is also an increase in the software as a service market, where it is increasing from this to this. So overall, the market is growing from $9 billion to almost $19 billion by next year. And that's just the SMB portion, which is our core focus when we are talking about the service providers and the opportunity of cloud computing for the service providers. So now we will see what it means to be a service provider. The service providers we are typically talking about here are the communication service providers, and they are providing different types of either voice telephony or internet access service. A typical example would be a WiMAX 4G service provider or new coming LTE providers which have in data and voice converged already in their offering. There could be traditional GSM CDMA operators, traditional DSL operators, traditional fiber or cable operators, residential voice over broadband providers, enterprise voice over IP providers, landline telephony providers, and all such related providers which are into any of the communication service providing business. Looking further, we see in the business case that the biggest asset for any CSP is its access network. Whether it's a voice telephony service or it's a data telephony or it's a data service, the access network is where the biggest or the most expensive asset for any CSP lies. Now, while that asset exists and while you have the customers which are already using that access network, cloud computing allows and enables a service provider to offer a bunch of new services leveraging the existing network that already exists. So it's kind of maximizing the potential which exists out of your access network for any service provider. And we will see that cloud computing services are sticky in nature. Customers tend to be more loyal when they are using some cloud computing services from the same service provider which is providing them with internet access and which is providing them with telephony. And they will have their data onto the servers provided by the CSP, and then it's no more easy for them to move to another provider as it is for them if you are only providing them with voice services. If you are providing them with unified messaging or collaboration or other things, you have a bigger part of their business, and it's more difficult for them to migrate away. Cloud computing also allows CSPs to differentiate their services from the competition. While the competition may be providing a plain vanilla voice telephony or plain vanilla ISP services, a bundled cloud computing service differentiates you from the rest of the competition. And now that cloud computing is in full swing, The peer pressure is also increasing on all the CSPs to provide one or the other cloud computing service just because the competition is offering that. So either you can be left behind, or you need to jump onto this ongoing bandwagon. Cloud computing is also looked by the customers as futuristic and as someone who is providing leadership. So if you are providing business critical domain like messaging, collaboration, communication to the enterprises, your perception is of a leader in the technical market. And plus, as we have briefly discussed, and which is the core, that it allows a CSP to monetize the access network that it already has. And since the access network is there, the value-added services that it brings and the extra revenue that it brings is substantial realization of the potential of your access network. And allowing and offering cloud computing services is not that capital intensive. The bulk of the capital expense is in the infrastructure, which is usually contained within the data center. It's not a radio access network or another fiber access network where you have to go and lay your network on the ground and on a wide geographical region. It's very self-contained, and you build a data center where all the services are contained. And the operational expense is also directly related to the revenue. It's kind of a pay-as-you-grow model. You add more infrastructure, more servers as your business grows. So you start with a low CAPEX and you increase your OPEX only when your revenue increases. Plus, it is an extension of technology. Anyone which is a living telecom or ISP needs to continue to make progress, and then it's a natural extension of the technology that you guys already have, the service providers. And it's just a natural next step for any service provider to offer cloud computing services in terms of technology. So far, the cloud computing services are also higher margin services. There is a decent margin in it because the enterprise, they are paying a reasonably good amount of money to move their services into the cloud. Their savings are huge when they are moving their in-house on-premises IT teams to cloud-based services. Their savings are huge, and they are willing to pay a premium to the CSPs who can or who are providing them with these cloud-based services. And plus, cloud-based services come with other strings attached. There are ongoing managed services contracts which are possible, which add substantial value to the proposal. You can offer them monitoring services of monitoring their service 24/7. There are maintenance and upgrades. There are new patches coming on the OS, on the applications. CSPs can and they do offer such services where on a subscription basis they keep all their servers updated for them instead of every enterprise doing it for themselves. And then there could be different levels of support where your engagement keeps on increasing, and all of these avenues allow substantial revenue and margin to be added on top of the service. So having looked at the business case for CSPs, let us look at the opportunity, where the opportunity is. As we saw, broadly, the whole thing can be categorized into three categories. We call the first one as infrastructure and virtualization. This is all of those planes where you are not really aware of what the enterprise is doing on your infrastructure. You have given them just the infrastructure. They do whatever they want to do with it, whatever application they want to use it. The others are enterprise applications. These are applications like unified messaging, collaboration, communications, CRM, and others. These are applications which need some domain knowledge on behalf of the CSP to know what applications there are and how do they run. And then we have separated them from software as a service. Typically, they are separated from software as a service because software is everything else, that all the applications, all the websites, web applications, whatever there is on the web that someone might like to have as a service is classified here as a service. So we see that the opportunity is broadly categorized into three of these things. And the CSPs have to choose if they just want to stay within the infrastructure or they want to provide maybe Microsoft hosted Exchange or some other related services or some other software as a service. So looking a bit deeper into the infrastructure and virtualization, we see that offering computing infrastructure, compute and storage infrastructure is currently a market which has already surpassed $3.7 billion, and it is going to $10.5 billion by in 2 years' time. And what it does is that the CSP has a bunch of infrastructure which could be storage, network, servers, and things like that. And on top of that, it provides virtualized containers based on virtualization technology to the customers, and the customers can then manage their own partitions themselves. That's one of the major areas where CSPs can position themselves. The second is the enterprise applications. The major chunk is in messaging, collaboration, and communication. And these are going to hit $4.3 billion in next year. Plus there is software as a service, and there are like hundreds or maybe thousands of other applications which are hosted in a cloud environment each day. Every new service is moving towards the cloud. 80% of all new applications are now coming out with a cloud-based version available already. So only 20% of the applications are coming in an on-premises only version. So it's safe to assume that all the new applications are going to be available within the cloud. One market research says that the market is going to hit 25 billion for SMBs by next year. So having looked at the business case and the opportunity, let us look quickly at the challenges which the CSPs face when they want to launch cloud computing services. We will see that these challenges are similar. They are just an extension which most of the CSPs have already gone through when a few years ago they upgraded themselves from a single service provider to a converged service provider. You know, there is hardly any telephony or telecom provider now that does not offer data services with the voice service, and there is hardly any ISP out there which is not offering some kind of voice or IP or voice telephony services. So when these CSPs upgraded themselves from 1 to 2, they have actually gone through the pains that it takes to upgrade from one service to a converged service, or from a single play to a multiple play. And once they have gone through these pains, it's a natural extension for them to have more and more cloud-based services incorporated into the same converged core that they have, that will have the billing, the rating, the charging, the customer management, the CRM, and things like that. So when we look forward, we see that with these things, with new services coming, the whole gamut, the whole range of the product offerings and the service offerings that the CSPs are making are getting or will get more complex. So the customers will look at the service provider as a service broker, and they will have some infrastructure provision for this customer in one way, some platforms which could be collaboration, communication, or other types of platforms out there, or they could be brokered platforms like Amazon Web Service or Google Apps or things like that. There are some software which are provisioned and provided to these customers, and then there could be multiple vendors on this side which are offering third-party brokered services, and the core service provider is just mediating these services from these vendors to these customers. So the whole offering model will get a bit complex, and we will see what challenges service providers are going to face when they do that. The first challenge here is in unified provisioning. So when they need to provision something, the product is more complex. The product might need more complex provisioning than it used to be when all they had to do was to provision a new voice subscriber or a new data subscriber or so on. So with unified communications, everything unified, there's unified telephony, there's unified internet access, there's unified conferencing, there's unified other things. So there has to be a lot more provisioning work required than it was normal for them. The other thing they need to do is to somehow integrate their billing and the cloud computing side with their existing billing. So subscribers are now going to have multiple subscriptions on the cloud, and in addition to their basic voice or telephony or internet access billing, they now need to be aware of the subscriptions and how they are being processed, and which subscriptions have not been processed, and what to do for the ones that have not been processed, and to send the customers a unified bill for the whole organization that has the complete service plans, what is included, and what was consumed, and so on. And it can get more complex if you are charging for services based on usage and metering. Then you need to figure out how much of a cloud service was consumed by a customer, and then you need to rate that and then merge it into the billing. The next challenge CSPs are going to have is to integrate their customer service representative portals. You need to enhance them. Most of them, almost all of them, do have CSRs, which are answering customer support calls all the time. But they are only their interfaces are only connected to your existing services. You need to somehow have the means and the ability to now connect to your cloud computing infrastructure also, so for your CSRs to be able to do the support and do the required use cases for such customers. We also see that in addition to CSR portals, the self-serve portals for customers also have to undergo the same transition, and they need to be enhanced. While previously a user could come and only do self-serve for his voice or internet access use cases, they now need to have many and much more, or a broad new range of use cases that they need to do self-serve on. And the customer self-serve portals really need to increase. And by the very nature of cloud computing, self-serve is an integral part of cloud, and this is the biggest apprehension of people when they are moving into the cloud. They want to see that the power and their flexibility to manage the applications as it used to be when it was on premises is not reduced. So they need to go and ask the CSP if they have all their typical use cases available within the self-serve portals as they used to be when the software was running on premises. Then comes the issue of monetization. Cloud computing services come with multiple different features and value-added services within themselves, and a service provider would naturally like to monetize each of them and charge a premium onto providing to them for the people who are getting an extra value out of them. So each feature, the more monetization you do based on a feature, the more difficult the provisioning and operations become. But then there is more fruit at the end, and you are typically able to differentiate the same cloud computing service into many tiers and charge people differently. So CSP needs to see what flexibility does it have in its infrastructure to allow it to monetize each and every feature available in the cloud computing. Plus, a CSP also needs automatic service management. So the CSPs are already used to suspending and resuming services for users automatically, and their billing system is taking care of it. So previously the billing system used to say, for example, suspend this user, Joe Smith, and so the user will be suspended on the voice telephony service or on the internet access service. Now with cloud computing services, the CSP needs to know how to suspend the services. For example, if it's a hosted exchange service, the CSP needs to know how to suspend services on a hosted exchange or on a CRM or on a SharePoint or on an Office Communications or on a virtualized partition. So the CSP preferably needs to have a middleware that isolates the billing and charging from all the details of all of these technicalities, and then they give their usual suspend user command, and then the services need to be suspended based on the specific application specific ways, and then same goes to resume services. Plus, another issue which has come up with cloud computing is multi-tenancy, because by definition the applications which were running before as unified were designed to run in a unified way, and most of them were not designed to be multi-tenant. So a unified messaging system would in fact allow everyone on the same deployment to see everyone else's calendars, their free busy times, and their address books and so on. So an artificial layer of multi-tenancy needs to be introduced on top of the applications. and the CSP needs to find a way on how to do that. At sometimes the virtualization solves this problem, where the CSP is able to create a separate virtualized partition for every tenant. But for bigger deployments like unified communication, unified collaboration, unified messaging, it's not easy or it's not viable to create a separate virtualized partition for each user, and then they need to figure out how to have multi-tenancy within their servicing. That's one of the major challenges that any CSP is going to face when it comes to offering cloud computing services. The next one is obviously operational reporting. A CSP is a living organization, a very vibrant one. They need to have full detail for their operational needs on what is the resource availability, what is the resource utilization, what is the bandwidth, what is left, which are the contention areas, so as to proactively and reactively run all of their operations. The next thing is that comes with the self-serve portion especially, is that users are able to self-serve themselves. They want to do self-serve, and it's not a cloud computing service if you do not allow your users to self-serve themselves. But when they self-serve, you do not have the visibility or what they are going to do to your network and how much resources are they going to provision. So there has to be a plan manager with a quota enforcement engine built into it that enforces all the quotas which have been extended to a customer or which have been subscribed to by the customers, and the quota manager is running behind all the provisioning requests which are coming either through self-queues or CSRs or wherever, and then it either blocks requests which are exceeding quotas, or it prompts the users to have to purchase more quotas or subscribe to higher quantities or so on. So it has to be a comprehensive thing that the CSP needs to find out. Then depending on the service, if you are just charging people based on subscriptions, then you can put caps on their usage, and that's good. But there are times when you would like to charge the users based on their actual usage of the service. If that is the case, then you need to have a metering service running somewhere which is metering the actual usage and which is sending so the summarized records of every user's actual usage, so that you can bill them and you can charge them accordingly. And the input usually goes to the rating engine that will rate the usage, and then it will integrate with the billing system. So the CSPs are already used to rating voice calls, for example, so they need to have just the input coming from the metering agents in cloud computing in the same way as they get information for the voice calls, and then they can do the charging, rating, and billing the way that they are used to doing. Another issue is to have a single bill sent out to the customer where their existing billing needs to be merged with the cloud computing billing, and a single bill. The customer should see a single bill for all of the services. Now this is a very important slide that says support for value-added resellers. The main difference between telephony or ISP services is that a value addition layer by us, a reseller, is usually not required. A person who buys the phone is usually able to turn the phone on himself. A user who buys internet access is usually able to turn the internet access on himself, but not so for cloud computing. It's not easy for an organization to move to a unified messaging system like hosted exchange. It's not typical for an organization to be able to move on to a unified communication system all by themselves. So a reseller, a value-added reseller, which is someone in the neighborhood, is a very important element in the value chain. And all those service providers who have provided good interfaces and good support for such value addition have benefited a lot from in terms of the proliferation of their service. So the CSP needs to know and figure out if it has to support resellers, and if yes, then it will have a B2B kind of a relationship with the reseller where it sells its services in wholesale bulk to this reseller, and then this reseller goes to an individual host and install everything and do some on-premises things and do some legwork and some personalized services and charge his premium, and riding onto the infrastructure and network of this service provider. So the service provider needs to figure out, this is one of the challenges for a CSP to see and figure out if they have to support the resellers, and if yes, then how? Okay, the next challenge is a bit technical in nature. The service provider has an infrastructure which is all here, and they need to have a single abstracted out provisioning layer where they send all of their requests from their existing order management systems or whatever they are running in their system now. They need to send the request, and that this gateway, if you will, to the rest of the infrastructure is what's needed by the CSP to serve as an access point to this orchestration or order management or billing system, whatever they have in their existing OSS, and then this needs to this gateway then needs to do the actual work on the whole of the infrastructure wherever it's distributed. And with IP-based services, this infrastructure could be theoretically or possibly geographically distributed as well. So having gone through the business case, the opportunity and the challenges faced by the service providers in offering cloud computing, let us quickly summarize what we have to offer. We have hosting controller, which is a full comprehensive solution for any service provider to get into the cloud computing business. We'll see how the product works. We are assuming that the service provider already has some order management and service management system in place. They have their own plans, packages, a product management, some product catalog, their subscriber management. They have everything in place, and they're already having some services given on that. Behind this order management system, they also have an OSS layer that does all the orchestration and provisioning, and they need to enhance when they come to offer cloud computing service. They are able to enhance this orchestration layer to talk to another layer that will provide all the cloud computing. So what we are offering is that there can be so many servers in the infrastructure or in the data center that the CSP arranges, and then hosting controller sits right in front of all of this infrastructure, and then it solves all the problems and the challenges that we have seen in previous slides, and it allows them to realize the opportunity that we saw initially and to seize on that thing. So this is where the hosting controller will sit. This is what we are expecting them to have already. This is where the new things come in terms of the infrastructure. So the hosting controller, what it offers, first of all, as we just saw that the whole market could be divided into 3 segments. So hosting controller also naturally comes with three modules or 3 solutions. The first solution is on virtualization and infrastructure. Hosting controller supports both Windows and Linux. So if you want to offer virtualization on Hyper-V, Hyper-V, hosting controller supports that. If you want to offer it on Linux, hosting controller supports 2 of the most popular virtualization engines, which is my Citrix Xen and VMware. So the way it will work is as normal. You know, the order will come and the virtualized partitions will be provisioned through the provisioning application. The message will come as always to our master console, the gateway, and then the actual virtualized partitions will be partitioned, and then this is usually done either through an administration portal or through the orchestration layer or the order management system that the user has, and then all the subscribers will be able to self-serve themselves onto these partitions with use cases which are typical for them to do in an on-premises solution. The second offering that hosting controller supports is based on Microsoft products and Microsoft enterprise applications. Microsoft has a suite of enterprise applications which are providing the basic unified enterprise application use cases. The Exchange service is their flagship unified messaging platform. SharePoint server is the most common worldwide platform for unified collaboration. Link is or Office Communication Server is their flagship product for unified communication. ActiveSync is their product that integrates all the smartphones with all this unified thing. We have a BlackBerry interface, and Microsoft Dynamics CRM is one of the most popular CRM systems for enterprises out there. Hosting controller provides a complete solution for service providers to offer all of these services in a multi-tenant hosted way. The problem with these products so far has been that Microsoft did not design them originally to run as a multi-tenant cloud-based service offering. Microsoft designed them to be unified and monolithic in design. So Microsoft has suggested all the service providers worldwide that if they want to offer this otherwise monolithic product as a multi-tenant product in cloud-based environments, then they need to go to a control panel vendor like us, like hosting controller, that will add the extra multi-tenancy layer on top of the products that Microsoft has. So if you are offering hosted exchange in a multi-tenant way, you have to get a validated control panel from Microsoft. Otherwise, you will lose support from Microsoft as per their policy. So far, Microsoft has a huge compliance sheet, and all the control panels that comply to that sheet are validated by Microsoft through a validation process. You can find Hosting Controller is one of those few products which have been validated by Microsoft to allow service providers worldwide. The link appears here. You can just copy this link and you will find the Microsoft validation listing for Hosting Controller. The third solution that Hosting Controller offers is in terms of SaaS, the software as a service. And software as a service is now an extension of the web hosting service that people were typically offering. And Hosting Controller provides a very large number of softwares, third-party softwares, which are fully supported. And when we say supported, this means all the use cases that Hosting Controller offers in terms of provisioning, in terms of subscriber management, in terms of self-care, in terms of operational reporting, in terms of their subscription management, in terms of service management, whatever Hosting Controller does. When we say we support a product, we do that. For example, if we support Microsoft IIS as a web server, we will allow service providers to provision websites on that, stops websites, recycle websites, start websites, and so on. Whatever use cases they are all supported. So we support 100 plus different applications. The long list of Windows applications can be found on this link. The long list of Linux applications can be found on this link. Then we saw the three basic solutions that Hosting Controller offers in terms of virtualization and infrastructure that caters to the virtualization and infrastructure market. And then the enterprise applications in which my Hosting Controller has put its weight behind Microsoft. And we offer full support for Microsoft enterprise application. And third is obviously the web hosting and the SaaS market. So what we also provide technically is what we call a master console. A master console is a single web-based gateway to all the rest of the infrastructure. It has multiple different portals included in it. One portal is for the customers to do their self-serve. This portal can be added and integrated into any existing self-serve portal for that the CSP might have. It has a single sign-on, and then they can just push people onto this self-serve portal, and it will allow them to self-serve. It has a complete self-serve portal for value-added resellers, as we just saw. So the CSP can sell things in bulk to the VARs, and then those value-added resellers can sell piecemeal to their individual customers. And then it also has a portal, a web-based portal for the administrators of the CSP, who will administrate the whole deployment, or the CSRs, the customer service representatives, can also use this to do some of the technical stuff. We also saw that the Hosting Controller provisioning and service management and subscriber management needs to be integrated into the existing OSS, or the existing orchestration, or the existing order management systems, or the existing reporting systems. So they need APIs to do that, and Hosting Controllers provide very comprehensive transactional APIs which do complete transactions as a single primitive. So for example, if your billing system is used to sending a command suspend user to suspend your voice or data services, then it will continue to send the same command, and then these transactional APIs will understand what are the services which have been subscribed to by the subscriber, and then it will know on an application by application basis how to suspend the services. For example, how to suspend an Exchange mailbox, how to suspend a SharePoint website, how to suspend a dynamic CRM website, how to suspend a DNS server, how to suspend some web application, how to suspend a virtualized partition or multiple virtualized partitions that the user might have. So your billing system, the interface with your billing system remains clean on the primitives, and all the technical details are abstracted out in terms of these transactional APIs. We also have raw APIs that do just the raw bare stuff onto any Windows and Linux box. So if your provisioning needs some specific thing, like for example you need to turn off someone's virtual partition or just shut it down without going through any of the transactions, we can expose raw APIs for your OSS, and your OSS can do that if need be, doing raw work onto the network. Then, as we have already seen, we do automatic provisioning for Windows and Linux both. So the users do not know which server, or their interface does not change. They connect to the master console, as we have seen, and then on the master console the request goes onto the Linux boxes in terms that the Linux box understands, and to the Windows boxes in terms that the Windows box understands, and it provisions everything behind a single interface. And the next thing we see is the multi-tenancy. As we just saw, that multi-tenancy is going to be a challenge for the service provider to figure out how to induce multi-tenancy onto an application which otherwise is not multi-tenant. As we just saw, Microsoft Exchange is a classic example of a monolithic service which was not designed to be multi-tenant. So what we do, as we did for Exchange and all the Microsoft products, is that we induce an artificial layer of multi-tenancy on top of the basic application. And then for the service provider, he need not be aware with any of the details of this multi-tenancy thing. For them, the self-cares, they are the customer self-care, the subscriber self-care, the CSR self-care, the administration self-care, they are all aware. The quota manager is aware, the plan manager is aware, the whole infrastructure from down to up is aware of the multi-tenancy ground up, and then it naturally fits into everything. So you can share one web server with 200 people, you can share a one virtualized server with so many people, and hosting controller will induce an artificial layer of multi-tenancy onto all of those applications. Then in addition to APIs for the provisioning system, we do have different APIs that we call primitives, which work behind a billing system. And then it takes basic instructions for service management, and it does it on all the applications. Then we saw challenges with monetization, we saw challenges with service plans, we saw challenges with having bundled product offerings for customers. All such problems are solved by hosting controller because it has a plan manager of its own. And the plan manager not only allows a CSP to have service plans defined with different quantities and variations of the services, it also has an interface with the quota management system, and it also allows the CSP to monetize each and every single feature available in the service. So for example, if Microsoft Exchange comes with an option to give people with a web access or give people an IMAP access or whatever, each and every single feature can be monetized separately, and the CSP can say, for example, you can only have a web access if you're paying say $2 extra a month, or you can only have an IMAP access if you're paying this much extra. So it's up to the service provider to productize, to monetize, to differentiate the services, and the hosting controller plan manager is flexible enough to allow them to be able to do that. Behind the plan manager, we have a quota enforcement engine, and the quota enforcement engine allows or restricts, every subscriber to not go beyond the limits of its own subscriptions as defined by the subscriptions to the plan manager and as defined by the resources which are available within the plan. So the quota manager on one end has access to which plans in how many quantity have been subscribed by which subscribers, and then it also has a visibility into which resources in how many quantity are available within a plan. And based on these two sets of information, it can figure out if behind each and every single provisioning request, if the user is in fact allowed to do that or not, and if not, then it will give it an appropriate error telling them that you have run out of this and this resource, so you need to subscribe to some extra subscription in order to continue with the provisioning. And we also see that hosting controller also provides an API that will allow the billing engine to suspend and resume the services on automatically. In addition to this, hosting controller also provides multiple use cases. In the GUI, we have a very user-friendly GUI that gives good O&M support for all the services which have been added. So a service provider will have full operational and maintenance visibility into the services that it's offering. Hosting controller also generates pretty flexible reports. All the provisioning which is done on the network is synchronized within a database, and the database is maintained in real time and is a real-time reflection of what exists within the network. And all the reports can be generated. Most of the reports are generated already, and new reports can be easily added into the system by the CSP on top of the database. And the database can also be replicated into a business intelligence system where the CSP can have more insight into the activity that's going on in the network, and hosting controller will provide them with transaction logs and other things. And as we have already touched base in Plan Manager, hosting controller also allows granular monetization of all the services. So each and every service feature which is available within it can then be monetized and made separately into or charged separately into your Plan Manager and the product offerings. Hosting controller also totally hides the infrastructure, the topology of the infrastructure. So all these servers could all be in one single location, or they could be geographically dispersed, or they could be brokered, or they could be outsourced, or whatever. Hosting controller remains a single gateway to the orchestration and all other front-end software, and then it totally hides the topology which is behind itself. Another challenge which the CSPs are going to have is in terms of product license reporting, because when users are doing their self-serve as they can, which is cloud computing by definition, is that users will be able to self-serve themselves, but the licensing is based on the actual used resources. For example, UK users are able to create their own mailboxes in the exchange if they have Quota, but Microsoft charges per mailbox or per client access license that they have. So it's important, if you have a service provider license agreement with Microsoft or any other company, then you need to have a real-time visibility into the actually provisioned resources. You can oversell to customers. You may have oversold your Exchange mailbox by hundreds of mailboxes, but you only pay to Microsoft based on the actual provisioned resources up there. And hosting controller reports all of this activity in real time, which otherwise is prohibitively difficult to figure out on the network how many resources have been provisioned for license compliance, and to face any licensing audit. Hosting controller provides complete visibility in formats acceptable to Microsoft for its SPLA reporting. Our database contains the information for any other type of licensing reporting which the CSP might need. In addition to the selling side, on the actual realization side of the resources, hosting controller is aware of all the resources. So it's aware of how many websites are there, what disk space is there, what bandwidth is being consumed, different applications, how they are loaded, different FTP sites. It's aware of all the resources, whether logical resources or software resources or hardware resources or network resources. It is aware of quite a few resources, and it will report that resources in real time to the CSP. And since most of the CSPs, as we just said, usually oversell, so they need to know how much resources are actually available on a piece of infrastructure, which are available for provisioning, and how much of them have been consumed. So it's possible for them to have oversold by 200%, but they know that they still have 25% of actual physical space available before they will outrun their capacity. Hosting controller, as we just said, is a gateway for all the front end. So it also offers load distribution among multiple servers. So there is a configuration management through the administration database, administration GUI, that will allow you to mention different pieces of infrastructure in different roles. So you can say these are my database servers, these are DNS servers, these are web servers, these are mail servers, these are master servers, these are virtualization servers, and so on. And you can have multiple roles on a single server as well, if you will. The way you want to configure your network, you can all define in here, and once it has been defined, it tries to load balance in an equitable manner among all the infrastructure that that exists or that is available. You can override the default settings by your own settings, so you can specifically ask to create on a specific server, or you can let a hosting controller load balance among all of your servers, and it does a good job of doing that. And as we just said, that each service provider who is offering Microsoft products, which is a huge market in itself, they need to be aware that Microsoft products are not multi-tenant out of the box, and Microsoft suggests, in fact recommends, that you have to go to a control panel vendor like hosting controller that will allow the extra multi-tenancy layer to be imposed. And as we just said on previous screens, we are one of the very few companies who have been validated by Microsoft to do that. So hosting controller also offers you a Microsoft validated solution. We also have competencies in many other domains of Microsoft. So now that we have seen the opportunity, the business case, the challenges, and we have also briefly seen the solution that hosting controller provides, we can conclude it in few slides. So we will see that the challenges that the CSP faces are in different categories. Some of the challenges are technological, some of them are operational, some of them are integration of existing services in the OSS, some of them are about service assurance, some of them are billing and revenue assurance, some of them are reporting, audit, and compliance. And so hosting controller is one complete solution that takes care of all of these for you. When it comes to cloud computing, we provide you with the necessary technology needed in order to have a cloud computing service. We do have use cases for all your operational needs, whether they are for reporting or they are for provisioning or whatever. We allow you to integrate with existing services, with your CRM systems, with your auto management, with your provisioning, with your workflows, whatever. We do have service assurance use cases where we assure services when something goes wrong. We haven't touched on this use case in detail in this presentation, but it's available. We have APIs that will allow you to integrate your billing system. We have reporting mechanisms that will allow you to assure your revenue. And we do have other reporting for audit and compliance and any other purposes. So hosting controller is kind of a one-stop complete solution for this. Hosting controller has been around for more than 10 years, and typically we are a web hosting automation company. The bulk of our customers are web hosts. We have more than 5,000 such companies using hosting controller today to automate their businesses, and most of them are in the US or North America, but we have customers worldwide. You can see some of the names on your screen now. In addition to this, the Microsoft products, we have a good customer base which is using hosting controller to offer hosted Microsoft enterprise applications, especially Microsoft Exchange. You can see we have more than 100 plus customers as of this presentation, and with the new Microsoft validation for our own control panel, we are hoping that many more service providers around the world need to come to us or they will come to us to get this product. And as we just said, as per Microsoft policy, if a service provider is not using a validated control panel, they will lose Microsoft support. So the CSPs need to make this transition sooner or later to move from a non-validated control panel if they are using some bespoke in-house solution or they are using some third-party product which has not been validated from Microsoft. They need to migrate to a validated panel in order for them to have continued support from Microsoft. So originally, hosting controller was established in 1999, and the first product was released sometimes in 2001. We have been progressing slowly. Our headquarters is in Richmond, BC, Canada, and our contact information appears on your screens now. So if you have any questions, you can post your questions now. We will take your questions for a while, and then we will try and wrap it up within the 1 hour of allocated time. So I'll give you a pause of a few seconds so you can post your questions now. Okay, Mr. Aricardo, Mr. is asking to send a copy of this presentation. Okay, the copy of this presentation will be available on the website a few hours after this presentation has been done. And I think that's all of the questions for today. So thanks, gentlemen. And you have any more questions, please feel free to contact us based on the contact information which is available on your screens now. Thank you, and bye-bye, and thanks for attending the webinar.